the power of the resurrection can tear a curtain, can cause an earthquake at the crucifixion. There's a lot of drama in physical, geographic change. And oh, by the way, Jesus is resurrected from the dead.
This is Ask Dr. E, where Dr. Michael Easley answers your biblical or theological questions in 10 minutes or less. Today's question comes from a senior high school Bible class, and we have a student who will be asking.
After the death of Jesus in Matthew 27:52 through 53, it states, "The tombs also were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. And coming out of the tombs after his resurrection, they went into the holy city and appeared to many." Does this mean that their physical bodies resurrected and witnessed to people, or does it symbolize their spiritual ascension into heaven?
Were there zombies walking around?
This is a great question, and this passage is fascinating. It's only found in Matthew, and there's two basic camps, and I'll give you the camps real quickly and then tell you kind of where I lean. So let's think of what's happened so far. Christ is being crucified. There's an earthquake. The temple curtain is torn top to bottom, which much is made of that. And this earthquake affects graves being open. Now, if you've not been to Israel, I hope you will plan to go one day. It'll change your life. But when you go on Mount Zion, or where you see the city of David's kind of like a triangle, and on the eastern side are all these tombs that overlook the city. It's the prime real estate, if you're wealthy, to have a tomb on the east side facing the wall. And they're rocks, and the tombs aren't like we do in the West over here, where we bury people in the ground. They're in these stone caskets, and their bones are in them, and they just keep building them on top. So the earthquake would have heaved these things open, and they would have cracked and buckled, and these bodies, some of them were not quite in the bone condition yet. The way the Jews do it is they let you decompose completely, and then they take the bones only, and they put it in a smaller box called an ossuary, because it saves space, because once the tissue is gone, it reduces it down. So these things are broken open, and these bodies are laying there. Now, some believe that right then they're up walking around. Hannah mentioned zombies. They're walking around, and they'd be freaking you out. It'd be like Lazarus coming out of the grave, and everybody's running for cover. Reading the verse carefully, and one camp believes that. Let's read the verse carefully. Behold, the veil of the temple was torn top to bottom, earth shook, rocks were split, tombs were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. If we give a stop, you know what a run-on is, a run-on sentence? If we give a stop there and pause for just a beat, tombs were open, period. Many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised, and coming out of the tombs after the resurrection. It's only 3 days. Christ is crucified 3 days later. So these tombs have buckled open, and all this earthquake has happened. And so when Christ is resurrected, that's what I think the text is saying. After that, bodies were resurrected. So we do have a number of people. As to whether they went into the town and said, "Hey, Mom, hey, Dad, I'm home, hi, honey," we have nothing. I mean, it'd make good fiction for some program like The Chosen or something. But I just don't see there's any text that tells us other than the tombs were opened, and then it says, after his resurrection, they entered the holy city. So they're around for a while, just like he was, and then they're resurrected in heaven. So it's a fascinating story because it's the only gospel that has it.
Yeah.
But we don't want to get too science fiction supernatural with the text.
Yeah, I kind of still don't really get it, because you're just saying there's like the two camps, basically the tombs open and they start
away
walking around, these bones or skeleton, whatever. Or what you're saying, your camp is the tomb's open, waited 3 days, and then they...
So the tomb is broken open. There's a body in the tomb.
Yeah.
But the body isn't resurrected.
3 days, but still, a physical body has resurrected and is walking around.
Again, many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised.
Yeah.
And coming out of the tombs after his resurrection. Don't have a why for you. One of the principles, and we've talked about this many, many times, don't ask the Bible's questions it doesn't answer.
Yeah,
so
or it's not trying to answer.
I want to know.
I
want to know. And then it gets into speculation and fiction. And as much as that's compelling, we just have to rest on the text. But we do know Christ proved life over death. Mm-hmm. He raised himself from the dead, and others are raised. So his power, we believed they were believers. They were Jewish pious believers who believed the Messiah. So they would be the only ones who would be resurrected and ascend with him later on. But it does, I think it's the power of the resurrection can tear a curtain, can cause an earthquake at the crucifixion. There's a lot of drama in physical, geographic change. And oh, by the way, Jesus is resurrected from the dead. So I think the whole scene is to show the power over the grave, and he overcame it.
Yep. All right. Well, if you've got a question for Dr. E, call us, text us, or email us. Ask Dr. E is produced by me, Hannah Seymour, mixed and mastered by Sonomorphic, and music composed by Jason Germain.